that with hate, we all lose, but with love, we all win. Thank you.
Mr. Rivera on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Another day in our history. But I would like, if you allow me, Mr. Speaker, to read to this body a message that has been sent out on Facebook by Eric Arroyo Montano. He says, and I want to thank Ms. Glick, I want to thank the others who mentioned that out of the 49, it's reported they're Hispanics. I want to thank him for them, and I want him to hear what Arroyo says. It matters to me that they were mostly Puerto Rican. I do not need to explain that or defend that. It matters to me that they were mostly Puerto Rican. It matters to me that they were mostly Puerto Rican. We will never be invisible. It matters to me that they were mostly Puerto Rican. The island and its children must deal with the seeds of hate that have been planted towards the GLBTQ community. It matters to me that they were mostly Puerto Rican. Why are most people ignoring that? Me, I don't know. It matters to me that they were mostly Puerto Rican. It matters to me that they were beautiful Boricuas that just wanted to feel safe, experience joy, and dance. It matters that they were Puerto Rican. Let me share with you what matters to me. First of all, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this resolution because it says, here we go again. This senseless tragedy marks another painful chapter in the fight for freedom, equality, reopening old wounds, and forging new scars. Well, Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of this session this year, we welcome here a group of people, Garifuna people, to this body. And we celebrated their lifestyle, their culture. And we welcome him, and we share with everybody that on March 25th, 1990, a sick person took 87 lives. In a club where people went on a weekend to enjoy themselves. That was one another tragedy. Here we are today, and I want to share with my friend here, and let's go down memory lane a little bit. O'Donnell. The year was 208, correct me if I'm wrong, when you first began to bring up the issue for the right to marry. 2007. Well, you know, at my age, you know, you lose a year or two up here. All right, 2007. By 2008, we came up here and we spoke and we debated on the right to marriage. It was not by 2009, correct me, that by then the governor, our governor, really joined you and every one of us in standing up for the right to marriage. Many of us got up and spoke. Some of us are still standing here. Some of us lost their position here simply because they dare stand up. But they stood up knowing the risk of coming back here or not because it was the right thing to do. Year 2009, you inspired a lot of people in Puerto Rico. You don't know it. We haven't had time to share with you. One of them is Wilda Rodriguez, a gay, very popular, known woman to the Puerto Rican people, a journalist, one of the best. And in the year a couple of years later, we have a mayor of San Juan who campaigned for office with sick messages openly. Wilda led a campaign says, you are going to be out of office. She learned the art of social media, my brother. She got to a lot of us in this country, and we elected a young lady who had no chance to defeat someone who had been in office for 21 years. That's Mayor of San Juan. She said, you're out of here. Later on, there was a popular TV program, Comedy Hour, very popular on Channel 47, where openly the messages was those that were inciting people to hate. She said, we're going to put a stop to that program. Again, the most popular #1 TV comedy hour in the entire Hispanic community in this planet was coming out of Puerto Rico. During history, Wilda Rodriguez led that struggle, and today, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of you. You know why? Now, Speaker, I got his attention. Now he's looking at me. Because you marched with the Puerto Rican Day Parade this past week, past Sunday. And behind him, my friend, with the largest contingent of LGBT people that should be as large in other parades in this state, to show that everyone is a son and daughter of God, the Creator that we hear so much. We're all God's children. Can't tell me no. Then why must we come here today to speak as to what's tearing this country apart? The day did not go by where someone tried to use it for political gain. No, the day is for America to close rank, and every responsible leader that gets his face or her face on TV should say, shut politics down for today. This is a moment to remember in the hope that it will never happen again. Mr. Speaker, like the tragedy in the Bronx, the Happy Land tragedy, we said we got to send a message. Nightclubs like that cannot continue to operate without any safety behind it. So we did more than that in the Bronx. We identified funding and we built a monument after 87 victims. Mr. Speaker, I think that it's very clear, in my view, that we should take this resolution and place a monument somewhere around this place, out there, so that we remember 49 names. We don't need to remember the person that took away 49 lives. We need to remember 49 wonderful people that most of them, yes, happen to have been Puerto Ricans. It could have been anybody, Puerto Rican. And like my colleague Marco said, Puerto Ricans are going through some difficult time now since we were made American citizens in 1917. And we have more Puerto Ricans dying in Iraq and Afghanistan than American soldiers born in the state of New York. Look it up, I'm not making it up. Then at a time, so much crisis, Puerto Rico right now is going, as my colleague says, we don't have a right to declare bankruptcy. And we got veterans in Puerto Rico being denied the services that they fought so hard defending our democracy. I know what the problem is. We're a colony. We were invaded. We are told to do as we are told, not as to do as we would like to do. So Montano is one of those individuals who lives now in Springfield, in Massachusetts. And like my colleague says, there's over 1 million Puerto Ricans in the area of Orlando, Florida, where this tragedy took place. I'm going to hope that we can come back here sometime. And I don't want to hear anymore that we're invading any country in search of weapons of mass destruction. Because the weapons of mass destruction is in the hands right back here in our home backyard. We need to deal with this situation. There is no need for any one of us to have a weapon of this kind. That weapon of this kind should only be long in the hands of these youngsters as they go out to fight to preserve our freedom and democracy. On a day like today, I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Lopez on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the privilege of speaking on this important resolution. And I too, was touched and spent a lot of time reflecting on the act of violence in Orlando, a state of my birth where my father came to find opportunity, and where I too have family, Lopez, Colon, Rivera's, living in Orlando and Kissimmee, St. Cloud. And all of us, Mr. Speaker, all of us mourn the loss of life and the act of violence that occurred there last weekend. But make no mistake, this was an attack on freedom-loving people and freedom-loving societies everywhere, not just in Orlando, not just in Boston, not just in other places where innocent lives have been taken. Acts of terrorism, whether they're foreign or domestic, aimed at specific gender, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, must be taken seriously. We must have zero tolerance for these acts. None of us are immune to hatred such as this. We must stand together as one people against hatred of any kind and defend ourselves when necessary. No one, Mr. Speaker, should have to live in fear. Domestically, we must dedicate ourselves to providing a framework of security, intelligence, and intervention which allows us to continue living freely and safely, all of us. In concert with this, we must continue to acknowledge our role, this nation's role as promoters of peace and security outside of our borders. We cannot turn a blind eye to acts of aggression and violence that victimize our brothers and sisters abroad. We must seek ways to stabilize communities and nations in a way that reduces the potential for hateful radicalism to spread throughout our lands. Mr. Speaker, we are one people, and this event must bind us together even closer. I stand in support of this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ms. Cancel on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to speak on this resolution. And thank you again for bringing this resolution to the floor. I'm a little bit nervous because I was taken back by this attack also. This was the worst attack of its kind. These were members from our LGBTQ community. It's a sad day in America and a sad day for our communities. My son is part of this LGBTQ community, and every day that my son leaves his home, I'm so afraid that I would get the phone call. As a mother and a legislator, we must do more to protect these communities and making sure that this never happens again and that we don't get these calls. that would certainly devastate us and take away our loved ones. Again, this must never happen. And we, again, my colleagues here today, we must bring this together to try to see if we can come up with better ways of protecting this community. And to the LGBT communities, I want to express my profound sadness and condolences to all who lost their loved ones. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Barron on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, this reminds me of when I have to speak at funerals. When you go to funerals and you try to find words to either console the family, inspire people to do better, to make life better, but there really are no proper words that could really describe the deep hurt and pain that people have when these things happen. But we search for words. Some people are overly political, some people are very personal, but we search for words to console, words to inspire, so life can get better. The only thing I have to say is that no human beings deserve to be taken out like that. No human beings. Should not happen to anyone. And my heartfelt condolences goes out to the families that we have no idea what families go through when they lose loved ones. I know many of us may have and may think we have the idea of how other families feel. But when I heard this, I don't know why I was shocked, but I was, because so many things have happened in this country to so many different groups that you got to avoid being numb and insensitive to this kind of tragedy because it happens so often. So the only thing I could do is continue to pray for those who lost loved ones, to wish my condolences to the families, and to say to all of us, we got to do all that we can to make life better for everyone in this nation and around the world.
Ms. Corwin on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to add my voice to my colleagues' voices in expressing a deepest sympathy to all the people affected by this tragedy, the LGBT community, the Latino community, all the families and friends. It's always so sad when you see and hear these stories, and certainly, you know, discussions come up about guns and gun laws, and I just want to say, yes, I do believe that we do need to have a discussion on that. We should always be having that discussion, not just at times like this, but at all times, because it's very important that we get that right. But there's one discussion that we don't ever seem to have enough of, and I hope that perhaps after this tragedy, if there's anything that can be gained, that would be a better discussion on mental illness. We look at all the tragedies that have happened, and we look at other aspects of society as well, and the impact of mental illness. And yet somehow we don't seem to do enough to try to help or prevent tragedies. We don't devote enough resources. We certainly haven't spent enough time or energy on our policies. And I do think that that's something that we should all be focusing on as well. We look at homelessness, we look at addiction, we look at so many aspects of life that are so difficult for so many people. And I can't help but believe that by addressing mental health and devoting the resources and the proper policies to it, that we can actually make a difference and improve the quality of life for everybody. And of course, certainly to try to prevent tragedies like this from happening. Again, I just want to say I am so sorry to the families who are being affected by this. It affects all of us, and I just want to thank my colleagues for their comments as well.
Mr. Pichardo on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to speak on this resolution. I just simply wanted to add my voice to my colleagues and my heartfelt condolences to the young men and women who lost their lives in that senseless tragedy. I want to say, particularly to young men and women who are coming to grips on who they are and how they identify themselves and how they see the world, and particularly as well to my colleagues who are members of the LGBT community. You are loved. You have love in your life. You have loved ones that surround you. You have colleagues who care about you. And on my desk, I have 4 flags. I have the American flag, I have the Dominican flag, I have the Puerto Rican flag, and I have the Pride flag. And the reason why is because this community in particular, what they strive for is just to be loved and to be accepted. We can't bring back those who perished in a senseless tragedy in Orlando. And I know that in all our ways, we were affected by this either in some sort of personal way by someone that we know who is part of this community. I know that I have family who is a member of the LGBT community. And I just simply wanted to tell the young men and women who are coming to grips with who they are and who they love is that the overarching theme and what they should always remember is that they are loved regardless of who they love. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Levine on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And so as we grieve, and we grieve too often these days, these weeks, these months, these years, another mass American murder, another mass American killing, we stand united that today we are all gay, we are all lesbian, we are all bi, we are all transgender, we are all queer, we are all Puerto Rican, we are all Mexican, we are all New Yorkers, we are all Ecuadorian, Honduran, we are all documented and undocumented. We are all Americans. This is a painful time in our history, and it's going to remain a painful time in our history as this works its way through our American history. We have a powerful enemy that hate us because we are a liberal democracy, because we as Americans watch out for each other, and we will continue to watch out for each other. But we make it too easy for this enemy that thrives on hate and hates us because of our nature and our political values. We make it too easy for them to get their hands on sophisticated, tactical, military weapons. Now, when Robert F. Kennedy spoke at the death of Dr. King, and Kennedy would only live for a matter of weeks after that himself, in 1968, he recited these words of Aeschylus that I think remain as true today as they did thousands of years ago when written. And these are the words: even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart until in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God. This is a moment for us to reflect on those words, and this is a time for Americans, especially those of us privileged to hold public office in New York, in our sister states, and in the United States Congress, to say to ourselves, what wisdom? What can we learn from this? Well, we can learn some things. We can learn that words of hate are the precursors of acts of hatred. And we can guard ourselves, those of us in public life, from staying away from those words of hate and intolerance and prejudice and anger towards any American. And we can also learn that we must remove from our midst these weapons that make it far too easy for those who, as Peter Bergen described in his op-ed piece today in the New York Times, from these people who want to be the heroes of their own story. Unless and until the day comes when we treat each of us with love and respect and understanding, and we remove from our streets and our homes these weapons that make it far too simple for the warped and those filled with hatred and those who despise us to act out and hurt us. We are in danger. Let us stand together. Let us resolve that we will take every step necessary to make sure that Americans remain safe. Thank you.
Mr. Gottfried on the resolution.
For me, I think Abraham Lincoln said it best. It is for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation shall have a new birth in freedom.
Mr. McDonough on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to speak on this. I've listened to all the remarks, and I'm in total agreement with all that I've heard so far. The first speaker, Assemblywoman Glick, when I think what that must have been like, the terror that must have gone through your mind to be attacked physically because of your lifestyle, I can't imagine what that would be like. That doesn't happen to so many of us. But when I think of what happened in Orlando and the number of people who, because of their lifestyle or their ethnicity, who were shot down, it just boggles my mind. And yet, will we forget this? I hope never. This resolution says it all, and we must always remember this. This chamber, all of these people, is a cross-section of this state, a cross-section of this country. We have people who are gay, people who are straight, people of every religion, people of every ethnicity. We are a total cross-section of this nation, and we have to learn to respect that. We respect, excuse me, we respect each other while we may disagree politically, but we respect each other. None of us hates any of the others. We have to spread that throughout all of our culture. We have to spread that through all of our daily activities. We've got to stop that, hating others because of the color of their skin, their religious background, their lifestyle choices, whatever it be. We can disagree politically, and that's part of our job, but that doesn't mean we don't like you or we don't respect you. So I applaud you, Mr. Speaker, and all of my colleagues for this resolution, and I want to also mention the fact that in this tragedy last Sunday, the people who responded, the police officers, the fire people, all of the emergency people, and today we have to remember the job they did. I see that we have law enforcement officers here with us today. We must remember that they're there to protect us, and I salute them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Cahill on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Churchgoers in Charleston and Fort Worth, soldiers in Fort Hood, college students at Virginia Tech, Oakland, Santa Monica, Huntsville, Kent State, DeKalb University, Tucson, supermarket shoppers in Arizona, Planned Parenthood patrons in Colorado Springs, immigrants in Binghamton, New York, moviegoers in Aurora, commuters in Garden City, Long Island, children in Columbine, Nickel Mines, Pennsylvania, and Newtown, Connecticut. Hundreds of others in shopping centers, offices, roadsides, homes, inner city neighborhoods, in police cars all over our country are now joined by patrons at a gay club in Orlando. May they all, and the hundreds more who will perish, rest in peace.
Mr. O'Donnell to close.
I'd like to begin by thanking the Speaker for allowing me to speak on this resolution. Thank you, my dear friend Deborah Glick, for authoring it. I want to thank my friends in the chamber who came over to hug me yesterday because I think they knew that I was not okay. I'm not okay. What's different about gay people is that we are afraid. We are afraid to walk the streets. Some of us are afraid to go home at night. And like all of you, almost all of us have straight parents. Now, why does that matter? Because if you're in a community that's outside the majority in our society, you usually go home to people who look like you. They sound like you. They talk like you. That is not true for us. We are required to go through a process that is extraordinarily painful, that says, I acknowledge who I am, I accept who I am. Hopefully, if you have a John Banta in your life, I love who I am, and I'm not ashamed to say so. If you have not walked down that path, you have absolutely no idea how difficult that path is. And so what we seek out is places of safety. Places of safety. Places where we can go and talk to each other. Places where we can go and dance with each other. Places where we can go where we will not be targeted because of who we are. I was elected to office in 2002. In 2004, I went to the Democratic Convention in Boston, and on the way, I went to the Stonewall Democratic Convention in Providence, Rhode Island. Small speaking role, no big deal, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of young people, not even me, I was old and tired, a bunch of young people wanted to go out to a bar. And so I and a friend of mine escorted them to this bar. We all walked home together. And in the walk home, we were almost gay bashed. Now, to be quite frank, I'm not a good fighter, never thrown a punch in my life, but I don't look like that. And the 2-3 cute boys who were with us, I had to put myself in front of them to prevent 2 people who ran out of the bar to attack them from hitting them. That's what happens to people like me. That's what the life is. And do you know where it comes from? It comes from hate. And you know where hate comes from? Hate is taught. I'd like to tell you that that's a novel idea. It is not. It's carefully taught. Let me quote a song from 1949. You have to be taught to hate and fear. You have to be taught from year to year. You have to be carefully taught. It is taught. It is taught. So you want to stop the hate? Hashtag stop the hate. You want to stop the hate? I want to stop the hate. Lived 55 years of my life with the hate and the fear to walk down my street. You have to stop the hate. These were Americans. They were different cultures. They were different backgrounds. They came from different places. They spoke different languages. But you know what? They were targeted because they were thought to be or perceived to be gay. You want to stop the hate? How about the next time somebody says something hatred about people like me, you stand up and say no? How about the next time a politician stands up and blames me for something that goes wrong in the society, you say stop it or you won't have my support? If you're not willing to do that, then you're not willing to stop the hate. And to the families who lost their loved ones, the greatest pain known to a human is the loss of a child. I don't know that pain because I don't have them. But my mother was an only child to my grandmother, and she lost her when my mother was under 40, and it broke my grandmother's heart when she would say to me, "Why did God take my baby and leave me here to rot?" The answer was she wasn't there to rot. She was there to try to love the 5 of us who were on our own. But to those families who lost their children, are you going to do something other than make speeches? Are you going to stop the hate? Are you going to stop the hate? Are you going to stop the hate?
Opposed?